What's up, you guys? Welcome to Boss Level 8. We watched the movie Spider-Man Into the Spiderverse, and we do things a little bit differently here. What we're gonna do is we're gonna read one critic's review. We're gonna make fun of them, basically. We're gonna talk and point out all the things that were wrong with this person's review, and we're seeing it for the first time, and so are you, and we're just gonna have a good time with this crappy review. So if you've never been here before, make sure you hit the subscribe button and the little bell right next to it. That way you can get notified every single time we have a new video. Now let's take a look at Roger Moore's review of Spider-Man Into the Spiderverse. Yes, that's how it's supposed to look. And no, Sony Animation should not have let Spider-Man Into the Spiderverse out its doors and onto big screens in this blurred, jerky, pixelated condition. Man, you started bad. It's weird to immediately dog the animation. Like the thing that everybody was creaming in their jeans about the second they saw the trailer. That's really strange. Hey, your innovation sucked. Also, that's a really bad start. If you don't like the look from the second you see the trailer, you shouldn't go see the movie and then review it. You are not qualified or allowed anymore. You're soiled. You're poisoned at that point. No kidding, 6 minutes into it, I go track down the studio's representative at the screening who had overseen other showings of the film in our market. No, that's just how it looks, he assures me. He said no kidding. He said no kidding, so I have to believe that he actually did find a studio exec and ask him if that shitty animation was done right. I have to believe you, Roger. I have to. Partly because I believe everything I read, and partly because I believe everything I read on the internet. I'm not ignorant. I'm just too fucking lazy to research. So did all those folks raving this up on Rotten Tomatoes watch it off screeners on their home systems? No. No, not at all. And also, why would that change anything? Like, if you don't like the style of it, just because it's on a smaller screen, is that gonna change the style of it somehow? Or are you just thinking that they all assumed that it wasn't finished? It's a little blurry right now, but I'm just kind of assuming that they'll fix it later. So, 10 out of 10. Because this plainly cut-rate enterprise in which the dot matrix of characters, CGI, is plainly visible on an IMAX screen near you, the action is jerky as 1960s TV anime and action beats that devolve into a Transformers blur is ugly enough on the big screen to spoil a pretty good effort at redefining the comic book movie. I feel like you're giving crap to this because of the dots that were in there specifically to create the texture of a comic book. Like, that's definitely the case. Like, it was stylized to look like a comic book made in 3D and on screen in front of your face, and that's why the style happened. It's like, is it 3D or 2D? Both. Like, it's an obvious thing that they were doing. I understand that you're saying that, like, it wasn't effective, but to compare this to anime in the way that you just did, and to say it's in any way like a Transformers blur, which I can only assume you mean is like when the two Michael Bay Transformers are fighting and you can't see what's going on. That's just insane to think. I mean, honestly, if anything, it would be harder to see at a small screen, which is what you're assuming all the people liked it saw it on. Well, that's confusing. Wouldn't it be more blurry and harder to see if it was on a smaller screen? Like, if you had trouble seeing the images and making stuff out, then I don't know. I hope you never get a screener. They wanted to make it look like a comic book. They went too far, and it ended up looking like a movie from a comic book. I mean, if they wanted to make it look exactly like a comic book and not go too far, they would have made a comic book. That's really the only way to do that. As in, animate it. Make it look and feel like a comic with thought balloons for narration and embracing and mocking of the entire on-page and on-screen history of the character. Throw in a cuter than usual Stan Lee cameo and the tone, at least, is spot on. So the tone is spot on, but you hate the tone? But they went too far, but I don't understand when something's spot on and they go too far. That confuses me thoroughly. It's weird because, like, you achieved exactly what you wanted, but also failed? That doesn't make any sense to me. It's like meeting the perfect woman and finding out that she, like, leaves in an hour and has chlamydia. It's like, I don't know. Do I still get to know her? Yeah, I would have left this movie immediately. A charter school kid of African-American Latino heritage is bitten by a radioactive spider this time. But there's already a Spider-Man who has the market cornered on all this crime fighting and web slinging. It's only on meeting Peter Parker that young Miles is pulled into the fight against Kingpin, who has a collider particle accelerator that his minions will use to tear a hole in space-time and tap into alternative universes. I always get a little confused when the review doesn't start like this, where you give kind of a basic synopsis of the movie for those of us who do not know what the hell's going on, and then you start talking a whole bunch of nonsense about how the animation didn't work. Wouldn't it? Why did this show up here? It doesn't make any sense. Like, I'm pissed when my waiter brings my salad after my steak. I'm like, that came out wrong, you know? You just gave me salad after steak, which is kind of how the Italians eat it, but I'm not Italian. So give me the salad first. I guess now I know what this movie's about. Maybe I should start it over again now that I know what this movie's about. Kingpin, he has his reasons, but that means other Spider-Men break into Miles' universe and there are Spider-Man casualties. Kingpin, you know, he had a hard life. He's going through some stuff. It's interesting how you can like really casually accept the motivation of Kingpin, but you can't casually accept amazing animation. Lucky for Miles, he's got all these comic books to study on how the web slinger is supposed to behave, teach him Spidey's ethos, all that. Our family doesn't run, and no matter how many times you get knocked down, it's getting back up again that matters. It's weird because you started so negative and strong and now you're just like giving me exposition. There is less exposition in this movie than in your review right now. There's very, very little meat. Like it's super disappointing. It's like a 2-page Sports Illustrated swimsuit edition. It's just ads.
The cover and the ads.
Yeah. Not a single Kathy Ireland. That's a long time ago.
Wow.
Not a single Heidi Klum. That's a long time ago too. Not a single. Who else is in those things? I don't know any hot people. Good stuff. If only the young teen was confident enough to live up to it. If only he was brave enough to take that first plunge off a big city high-rise. That's a clever touch too. Bit of a fraidy cat, this Spider-Man Miles. Are you writing Spider-Man into the universe? Like, oh, again? It's like you're writing it again. It's like, I don't know if I could do this, Miles said under his breath as he looked down at the, like, what the fuck? You're rewriting the movie. What? Where's the review? He hasn't said anything negative about it. He's literally just saying, this is happening, and that's it.
Yeah,
like, there's nothing negative. It's literally just, it's exposition. Again, he's rewriting the thing. Like, okay, let's keep going. The main story is just recycled variations on generic comic book themes and nothing special. It's the flippant tone, the awkward adjustment of the kid to changes in his body, sticky hands and feet, etc. Changes he attributes to puberty that gives Spiderverse a lift. Well, first off, thank you for starting to review this. We lost you for a second there, and you're back. We appreciate it. Second of all, saying this is kind of a recycled trope or a story that's been done before in the case of a superhero who didn't plan on being a superhero is of course true, but not something you should complain about. It's kind of the superhero story. We like it. It's familiar. Familiar's okay. Going through green lights is nice, because if you go to red ones, sometimes you die. How about familiar? And third, he didn't attribute it to him going through puberty. He said that to the girl he thought was cute because he didn't know what else to say. I don't think he actually thought that his hands sticking to things and him not being able to let go was puberty. Although if your hands stuck to your dick for that long, I guess you can attribute that to puberty. The long animated film. I don't understand why movies used to be like, yeah, they're gonna be about 2 hours. And then when they're 2 hours now, it's like, are you kidding me? Which is really weird because wouldn't you want your money's worth? Movies cost like $90 billion as compared to when we used to go to movies when I was a kid. They used to be a hell of a lot cheaper. And then like, you know, my parents and people like that, like they used to be crazy cheap. It didn't matter if you went to a movie and it was an hour and 20 minutes. You didn't feel like you were getting gypped. Now a movie is like $18 a ticket and then like $36 for one soda. And then you go in there and you're like, this one's a little too long. You just got your fucking money's worth for once. A long animated film, which seems longer thanks to the direct-to-DVD quality of the animation. Oh my god. Hey Roger, draw me something. Good lord. Is front-loaded with a lot of laughs, which thin out just as the second hour is getting started. Yep, because it's a comedy. I'm sorry, were you expecting a comedy? It wasn't a comedy. If you didn't get enough laughs in the second act, maybe it's because it wasn't a comedy. It had comedic things in it, yes, not a comedy. These films were plainly put into production with devices other than movie theater projection in mind, as there is no Sony animation of Pixar, DreamWorks, or Blue Sky production that looks as unfinished as Spiderverse. Unfinished.
Wow.
Oh man.
This is painful.
I'd hate to be your wife when she's getting ready for date night and says, how do I look? I'll bet it's perfectly acceptable streaming or on home video where every flaw in motion, design, and finish isn't obvious. As an aesthetic choice, it just doesn't work. It's funny, I hate when people have matter-of-fact statements that are completely opposite to every single one of their peers, colleagues, and a whole bunch of people that they've never met or seen ever. At some point you have to realize like, hey, maybe I can't go it doesn't work if it worked for so many things and so many people. I mean, you're the only reason this movie's a 99% on Rotten Tomatoes, so, I mean, it did work until you kind of stuck your fist in its butt. Fans of the current TV series and Spider-Man completists may find more to chew on here, but a lot of recognizable voices and unrecognizable ones, a lot of comic book touches, interior monologues and thought boxes and the like, and the general jokiness don't justify this Spiderverse making the trek to the big screen. Also, I don't think that those are the justifications for this being on the big screen. Like, I don't think the reasons are like, oh, we used some different voice actors. I don't think that like justifies making this movie, or oh, there's some jokiness in this, is not the reason that they made this. They made it because they had a really good story, really good characters, and wanted to be ambitious with animation. And it clearly worked, which is a factual statement that I can make objectively based on everyone's freaking reaction to it, except for you. You are alone in this situation. And if I'm the only one to say that, so be it. Well, you are. I guess so be it. It's kind of written in stone, and by stone I mean font, and by font I mean on Rotten Tomatoes, so whatever. That's where we found this shit anyway. I can't review anything but the headache-inducing, blown-up TV, under-animated miasma I see before me. This is sloppy. It's like, listen, it's not my fault. All I did was, you gave me a thing, and I said exactly the factual truth about it that is all just my overblown opinion. It's like you lose your job and it's like, well, it's your fault. I didn't do anything, but it's your fault. Dad. So what do you guys think of Roger Moore's review? I have a weird feeling I might hear some interesting things in the comments based on the reaction to this movie and how it's all the opposite of what this guy just said. Put it down in the comments. We would love to hear it. If it's your first time here, make sure you hit the subscribe button and the little bell right next to it. And if you want to see us film this show live, you can every single week on Twitch. We'll put a link in the description so you can check it out. Until we see you next time, geek out and game on.